Hamochas abais, somebody who sells a house. Loma charsi yatzia. Nobody knows exactly what yatzia is. I shouldn't say nobody knows exactly what it is, but it means various different things in various different places in the course of the evening. In the Beis HaMikdash, it was an office or a cell attached to the main structure on the outside of the main structure. So here too, the assumption is that yatzia is some sort of attached structure, but not integrally part of the house. Even though it opens into the house, it's not sold with the house. Nor a room which is more interior than the house. Meaning it also sounds like it's a type of semi-detached structure which could be sold independent of the house. It's somewhere else, either in the courtyard behind the house, in front of the, I assume, the courtyard behind the house, in the backyard, so it also is not necessarily sold. V'lo sagag, nor even does he sell the roof. If the roof has its own parapet, its own wall, 10 tefachim all around it, so the height of the wall has to be 10 tefachim. It says, even if the roof does not have a true wall, but it has like what we call by Erev Tzuras HaPesach, a perimeter, which is like a wire on top of two poles. And even though this wire is not 10 tefachim high, no, it's just like a railing around the side of the fence, not a true around the sides of the roof, not a true wall. So the roof is not sold. Why? Because since it can be used independently of the house, it has an independent significance, so therefore it's not included in the sale of the house. Rabbi Nachum Sherechia Barba said, the house has to be 4 by 4 amos by 10 tefachim high, and that's the height of the roof. Okay, so that as long as roof. What? I'm sorry. This way, you know what? This is the Yotzia, the cell next to the house, which is not sold together with the house, is if it's 4 by 4 amos, which is 10 tefachim high, which also happens to be, not by coincidence, the minimum shear of a house. Whereas a house is by definition 4 by 4 by 10. That's the minimum size of a house. So this yotzia is considered to be distinct, even if it's attached to a much larger house. If in and of itself it has the shear of a small house, which is 4 by 4 by 10. As long as it also has a ceiling, and it has walls surrounding it. So actually the small cell is really house-like in itself, which is why it is not sold. Amalon Rabbi Zera said to Rabbi Nachum, and to, I guess, the people who were with him, because Amalon is Amalon here, it's plural. What? To them, right. Amalon Rabbi Zera, Kol Adem Perusha Fresh L'Chon Barabba. Did you hear all of this from Rabbi Chia Barabba? You're calling this Rabbi Chia Barabba. This is indeed what you heard from Rabbi Chia Barabba. I don't know why he asked the question, but the Gemara doesn't record what they answered. Anyway, the Gemara goes on to the next point.
That's an intriguing question itself. You're so sure that you have your Masorah right?
What? Yeah.
This is not
he's querying that, right. It's query, obviously it's because he's bothered by if this is, you need all of these conditions. He was suspect, but you need all these conditions in order to consider the Yotzia to be independent. Says the Gemara, Sof Davar, V'lo Sagag was man sheish lo makah gavoa asar tefachim. A roof is not sold if it has a makah which is 10 tefachim high. Sof Davar makah, sounds like in farmhouses you need a makah. What about what if the roof was surrounded by the backs of other houses? In other words, it didn't have its own independent fence or parapet, but it had a parapet which was made up of the backs of houses which surrounded it on all sides, right?
They used to walls of
a warehouse? Okay.
Based on the right field.
Sense? Okay. So, similarly, what if there were pillars and other types of structures, beams, on top of the roofs surrounding it? Let's hear from here. Rabbi Domer B'yesh L'Tzuras HaPesach Af Al Pi She'eno Gava Asar Tfachim Eno Machol. If it has a Tzuras HaPesach, even though it's not 10 Tfachim high, it's not sold. In other words, even if it doesn't have a full market by itself. So, but Rabbi Yehuda seems to be the opposing shita. It seems that, however, Rabbanan Armin Vushiyesha Makagav Asar Tvachim. The Rabbanan who oppose Rabbi Yehuda say even if it has its own structure, which is not 10 Tvachim high, it's not as significant enough, the roof, to be distinct from the house below. So therefore, the Gemara seems to become a conclusion that if its significance is to be measured by the building which surround it, that is certainly not considered to be significant enough, and therefore it has the halacha of being being machor, being sold together with the house. In other words, if it does, as long whatever structure it has, anything which falls shorter than or less than having its own 10 tefachai makeh in and of itself, will not be differentiated from the from the house below, and therefore it's sold together with the house. Okay, halacha base. Below sabor, below sados, a well and a dose is similar to a well, except the well is just a hole in the ground. The dose is actually lined with stones. So actually, modern day wells or Western wells are actually doses because they have stones lining them, I assume. Obviously, those are not sold with a field or with a house. Even though if you sell a house or a field, you write that you're selling the depths and heights. That doesn't include wells. However, the seller, even though he retains the rights to a well, nevertheless, he has to buy back a path to the well from the buyer. Because when he sold the surrounding house or field, he sold also the potential pathway. So he has to buy back or rent back the right to a pathway. Chachamim assume that he retained for himself the right to a path, the shortest possible path, the narrowest possible path, but he retained the right to a path. If he specified in the contract that he's selling everything besides the well, that was implicit in the contract, even if it wasn't explicit. By making it explicit, then what it means is he doesn't have to buy back a path, which means that, the way the Bavli puts it, is that Rabbi Akiva darshan's extra language in the contract, which is interesting because it's consistent with Rabbi Akiva's shita in the Torah itself. The Torah Akiva does not say Dibra Torah Kolosh B'nei Adam. The Torah speaks as human beings speak. Rather, every single word is significant. So to the contract, he holds every single word is significant. So here too, what are the words? What word is significant? When it says that Chutz Mi'elu, that additional significance is what allows him to what allows for the buyer to retain the right to a path. Okay? So if that's the case, Chachamim say they don't dash in extra language, like Rabbi Shmuel, who says they don't assume the extra language is to be given any specific connotation, and they say he has to buy himself a new way. So if that's the case, why did he write Kavaruma into the contract? If Kavaruma does not include wells, what does it include? So it means like this: Shimroto lashpil yashpil, lagbia yagbia. If the individual wants to build into the house which he bought, or into the field which he bought, a depression, perhaps even his own well, or he wants to lift it up, meaning use the airspace, he's allowed to do so. In other words, even though the seller retains some surrounding land or something in the vicinity, nevertheless, the buyer is allowed to go down deeper and build up higher. Air rights and rights underneath the land are bought by the buyer. Rabbi Akiva Didon. Halal Akiva as he appears in our Mishnah, and that's called the principle by which Rabbi Akiva is called in the Bavli. Is mocher b'ayin yofa mocher. When you sell with a good eye, meaning you sell everything, including your right to a pass. You have to buy back the right to a pass. Okay, mocher b'ayin the mocher yofa is the way we pass it, which is the Hud Rabban and Rabbi Chia, which is in Rabbi Chia's Brisa, the names are reversed, and that's what Rabbanan say in Rabbi Chia's Brisa. Rabbi Zia, Rabbi Yirmiyah, B'Shem Rav said no. Halach Rabbi Akiva, the Rabbi Chia, halach is like Rabbi Akiva in the Brisa, who holds mocher b'ayin raw mocher, that the seller does not sells with a jaundiced eye, meaning he keeps to himself the path, which is like Rabbanan, the Ravloi, which is Rabbanan according to the Babylonian way of learning, which means, I guess, the way the Mishnah appears in front of us. I don't know what exactly it's attributed to the Babylonian, but that's the way they learned our Mishnah. So Lamai said to Machlokas had a paskin. I don't remember how we paskin. I think we paskin like Rabbi Akiva, that mocher b'ayin yafu mocher. But I'm not sure. Could be I'm wrong. I don't remember. Actually, I don't remember either way. So let me pass up how we pass it. I don't remember. Says Gemara Vayter, Ratamar, I mean, they said over there, Admon Rabbi Akiva, that Admon Rabbi Akiva said the same thing. What did Admon Rabbi Akiva? So what does Admon say? So the Pnei Moshe brings down that Admon says in Masech Ksuvas that somebody who had a field which was in the middle of other people's fields, 4 other people's fields, and then he went to Chutz La'aretz, and when he came, by the time he came back, the path which he had, the right of way which he had to his field, has become lost. Nobody knows where it was anymore. He doesn't remember where it was. So Admon says he's got a path to his field. He can take it regardless, and that means he has to take the shortest possible path and the narrowest possible path, but he gets a path. And so too Rabbi Akiva, we would like to say in the Brisa holds the same way, that he gets the shortest possible path. In other words, like even the Brisa holds, like Chum in the Mishnah, who holds that he gets a path into his well. The same shita, that we compel a path to be given. Says Martin, no, not comparable. Man kayomin, what are we talking about? Im dover porish yesh lo derech. If it was clear that he had a path previously, kol aboy moide, everybody would concede to Admon in our case. Both Chol and Akiva. If there was a path in the past, everybody would agree that we give him a pass, because we know he had a pass, right? In Dover Bori Shein Lo Derech, and it was clear he had no path in the past. Then of course everybody agrees he has to buy himself a path now. What we're talking about in our Mishnah, which is not comparable to the case of Ksuvas, is Bistam in a case of a sale where previously he didn't need a path, because previously it was his yard, his field, his well, he didn't even need a path. So the question is, in this case, where he sold without any stipulation. Akiva says that he does. In other words, Rabbi Akiva in the Brisa holds he doesn't have to buy a path because he has because he retains a path to himself. Come in the Brisa say he has to buy a derech because he doesn't retain, because moicher b'ayin yofa moicher is sold with a generous eye. So that is nothing to do with Admon, because Admon is the case where there clearly was a derech beforehand. So in that case, it's entirely likely that whatever derech that we do give him a derech, no matter what, because everybody agrees that he had derech previously. Okay. Hamocher Zabai, somebody who sells his house. Mocher Sadelos, he sells the door. Havelo Maftech, but not the key. Now, I don't know exactly how the keys work. I assume key here means more than that. It means really a lock, right? The lock, no, actually not. It's the key which goes into the lock. So, since the key is not part and parcel of the lock, it's not automatically sold with the house. It's a funny thing, right? Mocher Zamachteshes Akvua, he sells A machdeshes is like a grinder or a pound thing which you pound stuff in. It's a mortar and pestle, but it's a large one, and it's fixed into the ground. So it's fixed in the ground, including the cell. Avalosa mitatelos, but not a portable one. A portable one is not including the cell. Mocher says it's trubel. He sells his strubel. By the way, many things we're going to learn this evening. There are many different interpretations of them. I'm just going to give one per most of the time. His strubel is the wooden base of a millstone. Avalos akelos is the hopper by which you pour grain into the mill, and the hopper is removable. So therefore, it's not sold; it's portable. Mocher tanu and mocher b'kirayim. He sold the oven, whether a large one or a small one. And if he said he's selling it and everything within it, everything is sold. Kini masnisa says the Gemara. Let's make this clear in our Mishnah. When you sell the mortar which is chakuko, which is carved into the rock. That's included in the sale because it's part and parcel of the building. But if you have like a metal mortar which you embedded into the structure, then that's not considered to be part and parcel of the sale, because albeit right now it's embedded in, but since you can remove it, therefore it's not automatically considered to be included in the sale.
There's a concept of fixture in secular law, common law. So when you sell a house, the fixtures go with it. The fixture means anything that's embedded, anything that's nailed down.
Right. So here it's not the case. Not the case. Right. Chakuka is only carved in, not if it's embedded. Okay. Is a chotzer. Similarly, somebody who sells a yard. Mocher batim, he sells the house in the yard. Sichin, the dugouts, the moros, and the caves. Avlos, but it doesn't sell movable objects. Bisman shamar lo hu v'chomash b'soich b'sei selling it and all its contents are reklum mechun, everything is sold. Beikach and beikach, regardless, lo machi does not sell as a merachotz, the bathhouse below is beis abad, nor an olive press shebesoicha. Even though they're in the yard, they're so significant, the bathhouse and the olive press, that they're not considered to be sold together with the rest of the structure. Rabbi Lezer says, "Hamoicher is a chotzer, somebody who sells a yard, lo machar el avir shechotzer. He only sells the airspace of the yard. He doesn't sell the anything which is fixed into the yard. Not the house. Nothing mentioned before. Not the houses, not the caves, not the dugouts. All he sells is the airspace, not anything which is coming off the yard, which is a fascinating concept. I know it's not fascinating, but in other words, even though the caves and houses all abut the yard and enter through and go through the yard, nevertheless are not sold. Okay. Now the next Gemara, the Gears, is a little bit difficult, but I'm going to learn like the Shari Teres Yisrael, even though the Shari Teres Yisrael's Girsa is not found, not here, not in the Escorial, but he makes the Gemara go very, very smooth. So why not go for smoothness? So he says, Rabbi Yitzchak asked, Al daite to Rabbanon, according to the rabbis, who hold that you sell the stuff in the chotzer. Machar lo stam, chotzer stam, if he sells the chotzer without specification. Machar batim, it says he sells the houses, boiras, the wells, sichin, the dugouts, noras, the caves, avalo metaltlin, but not the metaltlin, right? That's what it says in our Mishnah. No. Here the Pshat so changes it. He says it. Does it not include the stores? He changes metaltlin to chanuyos. Does it not include the stores? Again hachanuyos. Does he change this? Does he sell the stores or not? Now the reason why this comes in is because of what's going to happen later on in the Gemara. Don't think he didn't pull the word stores out of a hat, but he does change metaltlin here, metaltlin in both places to chanuyos. Everybody changes gears here different ways. The Lieberman, the Mashbiach, but this seems to work the best. Now that's one question. Now the next question, Tapi Yadal and Rabbi Yitzchak Shol, Rabbi Yitzchak asked further. Al-Daitis Rabbi Lezer, according to Rabbi Lezer, Machal Chotzer Stam, we said if you sold the Chotzer generically, Lo Machar Elo Avir Chotzer, you're only selling the airspace of the Chotzer. Bizmach Amar Lohu V'chol Ma'asher B'soicha. So, yet when you say everything within it, then Machar, what does that include? In other words, you said Chol Ma'asher B'soicha, according to Rabbanan, they go a notch further than previously. If you didn't say Chol Ma'asher B'soicha, you sell the Chotzer and the houses, the caves and the dugouts. According to Rabbi Lezer, if you sell chotzer, you don't sell the caves, the house and dugouts. If you say b'chol ma'asher b'soicha, according to Rabbanan, you ratchet it up one notch to include metallic, to include movable objects. According to Rabbi Lezer, if you say b'chol ma'asher b'soicha, you ratchet up one notch and only includes now includes houses, wells, dugouts, but not metallic. Or when it says Chol Ma'asher B'soicha, does it immediately get ratcheted up to the same level of Chachamim and includes also the movable objects? Okay? There's Ma'asher Malahu Chol Ma'asher B'soicha Mocher Batim Boros Sichna Moros Avalo metallic. In other words, that would be ratcheting up only one level, Kohen Belezer. Or if you metallic, we ratchet up two levels, includes even metallic. Rabbi Yechon says, Vona Isisim the base Levi. I brought a proof from that which Bryce, which you learned in the house of Levi. Well, and he actually is answering the first question. Going according to Shari Teres Yisrael, was answering the first question. The question was whether stores included or not. Hayusham, when they were, and here almost everybody changes the girsa to chanuyos, and the Escorial itself has chanuyos. If there were stores, psuchos lifnim, and they open into the chotzer, mechuros, they're included in the sale of the chotzer. Psuchos lachutz, if they open out into the alleyway or street, and mechuros, they're not sold here the chotzer. Lifnim and lachutz, if they open both in and out of the courtyard, arei mechuros, they too are included in the sale. Okay, so we answered the first question that according to Rabbanan, sometimes stores are included in the sale, sometimes not. We didn't answer the second question. What happens to Rabbi Lezer if you put in the language of Kol Ma'asher B'soicha, does it get ratcheted up to even include metallic or not? That question we did not resolve. Halacha. A Mocher Space Abad, somebody who sells an olive press. Mocher Es Hayam, he sells the sea. That's the alar. Now. All these terms, again, as I said before, it's not clear what 100% each one, anyone that means. But the yam is the area where the olives are collected. There's memel. The memel is a heavy stone which you put upon the olives in order to crush them before you get the oil out of them, to crush them. Psulos are the sticks which hold up the on the side of the olive press. They hold up the crossbar. That's what it is. They hold up the crossbar. The sticks which hold the crossbar. But you didn't sell the kiraim. Is the heavy boards which you put on top of the olives after they're crushed. Nor the wheel which turns around on top of them. Nor the beam which turns the wheel. And the korah is the korah is actually the primary component of the olive press. It goes back and forth. It controls the stone, which goes across the heavy boards, which press the olives. I don't have it 100% in my mind's eye a picture. I used to know what they look like, olive presses, but I've forgotten as of late. But that's basically the way it works. They're crossbars, which hold with their beams, which hold up the crossbar, and the crossbar as there comes down something. I'm not sure exactly how the beam works, but the beam somehow comes from the middle. In other words, somehow from the crossbar, There has to come down something, and then from that thing which comes down, there comes out a beam, and on that beam is around the beam is a wheel, a stone wheel, which goes around the perimeter, and under the stone wheel, there are boards which press the olives down, which have already been crushed open, and those olives, when they're being pressed, then they grow. No, that's not what it is. I'm sorry, I'm making a mistake. I said it wrong.
All this takes, I'm just curious, this takes place with fresh olives, never been processed.
Yeah, fresh olives. I actually locked this thing. Boy. Doesn't seem to be any marker here. But look, this is the way I think it is. Here you have the two crossbars. You have here the way it works is that there's the Korah is there are two supports. There's a crossbar in the middle. Then the Korah goes through here, and the galgos at the bottom is a stone. It doesn't roll around. That's on a mill, but this one just presses. So it presses down. It's like a screw. You screw down the heavy stone underneath, and it pushes down on boards which are on top of the olives. So it doesn't roll around the stone. The stone gets pressed by the Korah, which is being held in place by this contraption. Does that make sense at all? So in any event, when he said it and everything within it, in the olive press, it's all sold. Rabbi Lezer says that if you sold the Beis Abad, you sell that beam on which the stone is as well. Says the Gemara, Kol Atzmo ein lo Korah eino Beis Abad v'temer alchein. He says, how can Tanakhama you don't sell the Korah? The Bad in question in the Beis Abad is that beam which screws down and provides the pressure. How can you say that that's not sold? Matnisa, so he says, no. Who's the one who holds that the Korah is the primary component of the Beis Abad? That's Rabbi Matnisa, Rabbi Lezer. That's Rabbi Lezer at the end of the Mishnah. So you just quoted that the Beis Abad primarily consists of the Korah. That's Rabbi Lezer. The time we learned B'Shem Rabbi Lezer, we learned name Rabbi Lezer. HaMoichers Beis Abad, some of you sells the olive press. Mocher is here covering. He sells a lot more than our Mishnah says. He sells the baskets which hold the olives, Vesasirin. He sells the beams which hold the olives in place. Vesamifrachos, these are stones which crush the olives initially before they're pressed. Vesarachayim atachtoina, and also he sells the lower part of the press. Avolo yoina, but not the upper part of the press. I'm not sure exactly what the upper part refers to. Velos asakin, nor the sack in which you put the olives. Velos martufin, larger baskets, shabasoch, which are in the olive press. Mizmacho melahu v'chomash b'soch, we said it and everything within it. Of course, everything is sold. Benkach or benkach, regardless. Lo mochar yitzuin, you don't sell any outer rooms. Or according to, you remember you had Yitzia back in the first Mishnah. Yitzia are outer rooms which are attached to the press. And these are other types of tools which are not included in the sale as well. And there's a line missing here, which is Gilina Ephraim brings down the bottom, which is a critical line, which is easily brought down this brisa. Benkach, this is Rabbi Lezer speaking. No matter what, Mocher Sakoira, he sells that beam which applies the pressure. Shlo nikra Beis Abad el Shema Korah. It's only called a Beis Abad because of that beam. Okay? There was a cool diagram which I copied of a Beis HaMerchatz in the well, you won't be able to see it, but I just want to show you that I did copy it of how a bathhouse looks like. A bathhouse looks like as a large structure that it has a reservoir and a pool, and then there's a place where the water is heated up and it flows into the tub, and then there's a cold room and a lukewarm room, and there are all sorts of drainage canals, and then there's one change here, people are dressed, some people are dressed naked. In the bathhouse themselves, they're totally naked. Then there's a place where you have the boards, a place where you keep the pots, a place where you keep the towels, and a place where you keep the cups. And then there's a place for the bathhouse attendants to sit, and a place for lockers. So all these are part and parcel of the bathhouse, and all those are going to be discussed now.
It looks like it's all on one level.
Yeah, it's all one level, but that's just the way it was drawn in this picture which I saw. There's no guarantee it'll look like that. That was the way it's pictured there.
It probably wasn't on because of all these bathhouses crashed through or something. Isn't this being an issue?
I don't know.
People dying in bathhouses?
No, that's different. No. The reason why what's there on two levels is that the boards go on top of the area where where there's a fire underneath the floor, and where there's heat underneath the floor. But that's in a sauna, and that's where the crash is down. So it's not two levels of habitation, right? It's not out 2 stories, right? But that's here. They have that in Masada. Somebody who sold the merchatz bathhouse, he doesn't sell the boards, the slats which go on the floor of the bathhouse, nor the benches, the towels or the curtains, 2 different versions. When he said he's selling the bathhouse, everything within it, they're all sold. Regardless, we don't sell the reservoirs of water, which are independent structures, nor the warehouses for the wood. He sells a bathhouse, he sells the inner rooms, and the outer rooms. These are the dressing rooms. Ubasilki, that's a basilica, which means the large room. It's not clear what this large room was for, either for people to gather in or the actual bathing room. The kamin is a place where they heat up the water. The kamin is a place where they heat up the water before it enters the bathhouse. Ubesa ruin, and the place where the bathhouse attendants to sit. These are bathhouse attendants who watch the clothing. Avalos migdolim, he doesn't sell the migdolim. These are certain storage areas. I don't know exactly what's there. Nor the pots themselves. The place of the bathhouse attendant is machur, it's sold. He's the one who attends to the water. The place where a person who attends the clothing stands, the coat check guy, ain't a machur, that's not sold. The place of the bathhouse attendant is more integrally a part of the bathhouse than the place for the clothing guy. So it said it and everything within it. Even though he said that it and everything within it, regardless, he doesn't sell the reservoirs which are used year in, year out, throughout the year. Nor a main gathering place of wood. So he said, if he said, the seller said to the buyer, it and all of its accoutrements, all of its, the things which serve in the bathhouse are sold, it includes everything, lock, stock, and barrel. Yeah, like a warehouse. I mean, the certain shuls where everybody's a bump on a lot, but that's not what it's referring to. Okay, somebody who sells a city. He sells the houses, the boros, the wells, the sichin, the dugouts, the caves, the bathhouses, the shovachos, and the dovekats, the beis habani, the olive presses, the beis hashalchin, the fields, what? Irrigated fields, yeah. But not the furniture or movable objects in the city. If he said it and everything within it, even if there were animals and servants in the city, they're all sold. So he sells a city, Moras Santer, he sells the night watchman as well. In other words, the employees go together with the city. Tani, we learned that Moras here, Shugam Liamer Mocher, Earsom, he sells the city. Moras Santer, he sells the watchman. Avalos, economist. He doesn't sell the economist, meaning the person who's involved in the finances of the city. He's considered to be an employee, not property of the city, and he's not sold. But if you sold it and everything within it, so I guess that includes the economist as well. Yes, super right. Ava Bisharmal, it seems like he's a slave, though. In other words, he's not a free one. Even though he said he sold it and everything within it, no matter what, he hasn't sold as a shura, not the shura that the Gemara is going to explain that is. Ubenosea, not the benosea. Vatroshim, Troshim literally means rocky, barren areas. Lieberman changed gears to choroshim, which are forests or groves. Hamukti mena, which are at some distance from it. Biborin and Biborin are like pasture areas, grazing areas. Shachaya of wild animals. Shalofos of birds. Shaldogim of a fish. What are shurel or shura, which it said in the previous line? Bizayah. These are at hilly areas outside the city. Benoseh or Kufrneh are suburbs. They're not sold. What about Benor? What about the water rights of the city in the sea nearby and the river? He's tiny those who learned that they're sold to go to the city. He's tiny and those who learned they're not sold to the city. Amar Chizkiah said, "Madam Armachorei." So the sold Eshem Tchum. Those are those which are within its Tchum, within its 2,000 amos. Madam Armachorei. Those that are not sold Eshem Tchum. They're not within its 2,000 amos. What? That's a long time. Yeah. Well, Hamor is a sod. Somebody who sells a field, top of 28. Chesam Taloches. Hamor is a sod. Somebody who sells the field. He sells the stones which are necessary for the purpose of the field. There's a kanishib kerem, and the reeds which are in the vineyard, which are in order to prop up the vines. There's a tfua, and the grain which is native to the ground. There's mechitza sakanim. Mechitza sakanim is a separate area of literally a wall of reeds, but it's a separate area of reeds. Shibchutza base rova, which is less than the measure of a base rova. There's a shomera, a watchman's hut, and a if it's not fixed to the ground by cement, because it's not a house. There's a chor of a carob, and a murkov, which is not yet grafted, because it's not such a choshva tree. There's a shikma, a sycamore tree, which has not yet been harvested, also is not so choshva. But you did not sell loss of the stones are not necessary for the benefit of the field. Loss of nor the reeds in the vineyard, which are not necessary for the vineyard. Loss of nor the grain is already harvested in the ground. Said it and everything within it. They're also regardless. You did not sell laws mechitas akanim she base rova, not the even it said komash besocha. You didn't include sell the thicket of reeds, which is a base rova inside, which is larger. Laws a shomera suivatit, nor a watchman's hut which is fixed to the ground by cement. Laws a chorav amorkav, nor a grafted carob tree. Laws sana shikma, nor a sycamore tree which has already been harvested. So that these are already considered to be so chashuv, they must be sold or included in contract explicitly. Lo sabor, nor do you sell the well. Lo gas, nor a olive press, a wine press. Lo shavach, nor a dovkat. Ben charivin, whether they are destroyed, ben shleimer, whether they're intact. The tzarich likach lo derech. The seller has to buy back a pass to all these things which he preserved for himself. Again, because Moicher Bain Yofa Moicher, to Rabbi Akiva, because he sold even the rights to a pass. He retains the right to a pass. Morek Yerukiva concedes it is not terminal chutz mielu. Again, if he wrote excess language in the contract, she'en tzar likach lo derech, he doesn't have to buy himself a path. What? What if he retained the field and sold the sycamore, the carob, the wells, the thickets of reeds? What about if the tables are turned? So then, what? He sold the things which are things which the Reisha says he retains. He sold those things. What? Not necessarily. Just reverse the case. Instead of keeping the field, he sold the. Instead of keeping the field, he sold. Instead of selling the field, he sold the sycamores. Let's say. Okay. So Rabbi Akiva Omer Eina Tzarich Likach Lo Derech. Akiva says, in this case, he retains for himself he retains himself the right to the. I'm not sure if I got it right. Now that you brought that up, I have to see the name Moshe. I didn't probably check him before. I thought it was on this case. He doesn't explain it. He skipped it. All right, so let's assume I'm right. That if he keeps the field, he keeps the field and sells the other things. Akiva says the buyer doesn't have to buy a road, because here the flip side is true. In other words, when he sells by Yofa, he sells the buyer not just the sycamore tree or the carob tree, but he also sells him implicit in that a road to the sycamore tree and to the carob tree, because that's the Ayin Yofa. Chomar say no, the buyer it's illegal there because he didn't sell him the road to the trees. But when is this all true? Do we have machlokas or kim rabbana by moicher? By somebody who sells. If somebody gives a gift, nice is kulam. Then giving a gift, you give everything in the field. You give super ayin yofen. Achin shechoku. If brothers divide up an estate, zachol basar zachol kulam. Once they acquire whatever part of the field they're acquiring, they require everything within the respective fields. Some of you takes hold of the property of a ger who don't know. He doesn't consecrate all these things, only the chorav amurkav and saran shikma, because they are obviously deriving nourishment from the field. So therefore, it's proper. He's makdish the field, so he makdish these as well. No. A carob which is grafted. A carob tree which is grafted. A buxer tree. So it's more choshev. Okay. The base Rabbi Yanai Armei, the base Rabbi Yanai said, the reeds are talking about a Mishnah, b'mchulakin l'gfanim. They're split for the purpose of the grapevines. Now, Lieberman says, Mavoshin the Bavli Yerushalmi. He says that, according to the Bavli, we're talking about, reeds which are still in the ground and growing, but they're designated for the purpose of being used for the grapevines. So the question is whether they're included in the sale of the vineyard or not. According to Lieberman, however, the Bavli is talking about, the Yerushalmi, however, is talking about even when they're already cut down. And then, if they're for the purpose of the grapevine, so they're sold with the field. If not, they're not sold together with the field. Anyway, it's not exciting machlokas. Rabbi Ruba.
I was under the impression that grapes grow on trestles, and I was under the impression that these kenim would support the trestles.
No, the kenim are the trestles. They are the trestles, yeah. But they didn't grow necessarily make the way wheat trestles now. They support it with the weeds. Rabbi Ruba, or the Skoriouts, or Chia Barbo, which is probably correct because he appears later on. Chia Barbo Shah asks, if you had already, now Chuyas Muchlokas, most people learn are reeds, but according to Escorial, it's clear to say about stones. Stones are already separate from the ground, and there's here lichros, which means they're about to be cut down, not cut down yet, and that would be in line with the Bavli, that the reeds are not chopped down yet, but actually the Girsa and the Escorial is Chuyas Muchlokas Leboros, meaning they're clumps of dirt, which are already taken out of the ground for the purpose of building wells. Nothing to do with the reeds anymore. So what's their status? So are they considered to be separate and not sold? They're considered to be part and parcel of land and sold. Similarly, the same idea. There were marble slabs, raised separated from the ground for the purpose of building walls. Are they sold or not? If there were bricks, or frames, I should say, designated for windows, are they sold or not? The Chibur said, Yesham Aruga, Shisha, there's a patch of 6 by 6 tvachim. Actually, he didn't ask. He stated. He said, name of Rabbi Yochanan, Chia Bar, B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan should be again Rabbi Chia Bar Ba. If there's a patch which is 6 by 6 tvachim, the Yesh Hashem Ne'atzman has a name by itself, Ein Mechur, it's not sold together with the rest of the fields. Rabbi Yochanan said, if you buy the sycamore, this is already the harvested sycamore, it's regrowing, in your friend's field. Machlokas Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbana. Rabbi Shmuel, Yossi, Rabbana, and a machlokas. Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, Amar, Kana Karka. You acquire the land. Why? Because it means it can if it comes down, if it falls down for some reason, you can regrow it. Even though normally one tree you don't acquire land, because 3 trees normally to acquire land. When you have a tripod shape of trees, you acquire the land between them. Not when you buy 1 or 2 trees. But a sada and a shikma is so choshev, according to Yerushalmi, that you buy land with it, and therefore if it falls down, you have the right to replant it. According to Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, of course. Rabbi Milokon, it's like any one tree, you don't acquire land. He asked like this, let's say you sold all the trees. The sheer low sadar shikma, you left for yourself the sadar shikma. You say, Al Data Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, Kana Karka, that you retain the rights of the land. That's Rabban Lo Kana Karka and Rabban you don't, or I guess is there some other issue when you retain? You retain for sure more for yourself. Maybe it has to do with Machlokes or Kiv and Rabban and Mocher Bayin Yofa, I don't know. It's a Ratavli Shoy asks like this, Mochel Kol Elon. He sold all the trees. And then he said, Zayis Shemochel Ploni. I'll sell you all the trees here, and the Zayis in so-and-so place. Kol Zayim Sheish B'churim, does he mean a single olive tree, or does he mean all the olive trees that are in that location? In other words, by tacking on the word olive, does that actually meant to be singular, or does that have some plural connotation? Just like the other trees in the contract are plural, maybe the olives are plural as well, or the other trees are plural and the olive is a single olive tree. We don't know. Rabbi Yudan, Rabbi Shmuel Shal, yes, if a person buys 3 clumps, 3 thickets of reed, kana, it should be erez. Soil. Did he buy the great cedar like which grows in Eretz soil? Now it says Eretz, but it's supposed to be Eretz. It's a funny question. I don't really fully understand it. But it means if you buy those 3 clumps, and I guess they're in the shape of a tripod again, and then a big cedar tree grows between the 3 thickets, like the big cedar trees in Eretz soil. Is that cedar tree included in the sale or not? Do we say even though you could go? He includes the land between. It's only as long as something doesn't grow there, or if something grows there, that's also included in the sale. I guess in Lebanon. I don't know. Says the Gemara, it's a strange one. But when is this all true? He said, by somebody who sells. If he gives a gift, he gives everything. Between a gift and a sale. So 2 possibilities. Rav Tapates Vamarav. Right, Bob Atali Shem Rav said, Shekain Derech Anosim Aton Lios Nosim Man Yosef. You give a gift, you give super nice. not just regular ayin yofa, but even more nicely than a moicher b'ayin yofa. Rashon Nachman B'Shem Rabbi Yonasan said, "Shkein derech al kuchos dios medakdim." He said, no, buyers are exacting. So it means that when a buyer and a seller buy and sell, so then everything in the contract is in the contract, everything not in the contract is assumed not to be in the contract, because buyers are very careful in what they buy. So ma beineon, what's as opposed to a gift, since it's not precise, so therefore we give the recipient the benefit of the doubt. Ma beineon, what is the distinction between these two positions? Hektish. Distinction between these two positions is going to be hektish. He who says when you give a gift, you give it nicely. When you're makdish also, you give nicely to hektish. Who says that the issue is would know that customers are normally very meticulous and precise in their details. What does he say about hektish? Because hektish, after all, there is no customer. So we say that since there is no customer, so therefore he said gives buying yofa. We said since there is no customer, no, he gives buying raw. What's going on when there is no customer? So the shmini miyado. So the Gemara says, let's prove it from here. Now there's a whole line missing here. Everybody brings it down, not just this Coriel brings it down, but all the Achronim here, because it's a line which is missing, when it's brought down to Rishonim, was missing because there are two similar words between us, and the server got confused. So it's the Gears is in the Pnei Moshe, and in the first wide line, but he doesn't have the full thing. He starts kind of in the middle. And the Ritbaz also brings it down. So let me just let's follow along the Pnei Moshe Ritbaz, but I'll read it out. I'll read it outside. It says, brothers who split up, Zochu b'asada, Zochu b'kula. If they said in our Mishnah, once they split up the field, so whatever portion they got, each guy gets everything inside the portion. So that was a quote from the Mishnah. Then, as the Pnei Moshe says, Rabbi Lezer asked, I'll call Perekula al Rishon Rushva. Will this statement was it made on the entire Perek, or is it made on the on just what we're talking about here? In other words, what we're asking is like this no say matana the thing. Is it going on that he gives ayin yofa? If it's in any case where no money is paid, wherever there's no money, you give ayin yofa. Money limits to ayin yofa when it's a monetary transaction. Or is it dafka in a true matana? Right? And what's the difference? The difference is brothers who split up. There's no money exchanging hands there. That's not a true gift. Right? It's not a true gift, right? So Shmami Atah, the Rabbi Lezer, let's remember here, Rabbi Lezer said, Achin Shechoku, brothers who split up, Yesh Lohem Derech Zeh Zeh. So they have a derech on each other. In other words, each one has the right to maintain a path through the other guy. So we see there's no ayin yofa, because it was ayin yofa there where there was no money, so then each guy should have to hire a path through the other guy's yard. So it must be that we don't always say matana where there's no money is buying yofa. Only a true gift, not a transaction where there's no money in and of itself. Now, that's not, why do we bring this down? Beast the boy may marquet. Because of this. Because it says over here, there are those who wanted to say, as follows, and in the Coriel takes out Amar Bilaz, I'm not sure if that's germane. Two brothers split out the field, Zachor b'kulam. This is a quote from our Mishnah. When they get the field, they acquire everything in the field. Hamasi b'nichsei ager, somebody acquires the cost of the property of a ger. Kana, Nilsei requires it. Hilchzeh b'sar, if you get, when he takes hold of the field, Hilchzeh b'kulam, he takes hold really of everything in the field. Now, this is the critical component. If you're makdish a field, ekdish is kulam, you're makdish everything. Now, what does it mean? It means the same Rabbi Lezer, who holds that by a gift, you're not always, where there's no money changing hands, you're not always buying yofa. right? The brothers, each one retains a derech. By hektish, he says, it's by, hektish is kulam. You don't maintain a pass. So you see hektish, even in the absence of a customer, you still say the svara behind your film makdish. Okay? I think so, you're right. Now, Rabbi Shimon says, here, most unfortunately take out the low. But Lieberman says, you gotta leave it in because in the Skoriel it's there too. So Lieberman sometimes does that when he feels like doing it. It's not consistent in that. But he says, even though it says in our Mishnah that he was makdish them. No, it does say field. No, our Mishnah says somebody who's makdish field, he was only makdish the Charav HaMurkav and the Sadna Shekla. So the Yerushalmi is recasting that. It says what it should be is a makdish field was not makdish the grafted carob tree. Nor is he makdish the sycamore tree. Okay? The old sycamore tree. Why is that? Mivnei sheyoinkin mishal hekdesh. Now, here, the pshat is like this. The chora, it's a question, right? The chora, we should say that they're yonik from hekdesh. In other words, they're if the rest of the field is hekdesh, so they should be hekdesh because they're drawing their saras, sustenance, their nourishment from the hekdesh part of the field, right? The chora, we should say that. So this doesn't matter. If he say Rabbi Shimon holds like Rabbanan that he retains a path. So if he retains a path, so it's very lumdish as far. Just like he retains a path, that means he retains rights in the field. So too he retains the nourishment rights for his sycamore tree. So there's a parallel thing. The reason why that if you makdish a field, you're not makdish the carob or the sycamore, is because you retain rights. And when you retain rights, just like you retain the rights to the derech, so too you retain the rights for the nourishment for your field, for your field, for your sycamore straw and carob straw. In lo shia lo derech. But were you not to say that, would you say for Rabbi Akiva that a person does not leave himself a derech, afin yokim mishal hekdesh, then in fact they would be nourished, deriving their nourishment from hekdesh, because you didn't retain it, and then in fact you would not be able to claim that you would not be able to claim that you retained them, because it would have to be given over to hekdesh as a matter of course. Okay, maybe we should stop here for today. There's no natural stopping point after the next Mishnah for a while. Even though we could have gone to this time around, but I did prepare to do it, but all right, we'll stop here. Not every day.